EEE EDC back again with another knife video. This is the SOG Terminus XR. This is the D2 version with, I think, G10. Pretty sure it's G10 scales. If it's not, let me know in the comments below, but I'm pretty sure this is G10. The SOG as a company has been pretty terrible for a number of years. They put out crap knives, and we need to address the elephant in the room here. They have sucked for a long time. Things are getting better. The company has tried to remake its image, a lot like Hyundai did in the 90s. Hyundai was a crap brand for a number of years, and they've they had that. The whole reason the 10-year warranty with Hyundai exists is because they started making them better and wanted to show that they were committed to being, a better product. So here, the truth is I didn't really look into the warranty of the SOG, but they are committed as a company, according to their actions of improving fit and finish and improving materials. They are committed to better knives going forward. They've marketed themselves that way. They've gone in interviews and talked about the fact that they've rebranded their company. So I was willing to give them another shot, and so I got this SOG Terminus XR to go along with that. Also, just be aware that there is a more premium version of this knife. It is Carbon Fiber and S35VN, I believe, and I think it runs either around or a little bit over $100. So if you are interested in that type of in those materials and you like this knife, definitely check that out. But let's go ahead and look at the axis style lock here. Now that the Benchmade patent has expired, not only is SOG looking to double down on some of some nicer materials, nicer fit and finish, they're also looking to double down on a consistent theme across their knives on deployment, and they've chosen an axis style lock here. So and I'm going to raise the camera up. I had it a little bit low because I did a Dragonfly review recently, and that was a much smaller knife. But let's go ahead and look at the deployment here on the axis style lock they have here. So as you can see, it works pretty much like an axis lock. I will say that with a couple caveats. One is these buttons are bulky, and we can get to that in the in the other part of the review, the negative part of the review. But and also there's a little bit of, it's not quite the same action as a Benchmade. Benchmade does a much better job, and so does Hogue, on the axis style lock than SOG does. Let's get that out of the way. Now let's talk about the good. Okay, so the good on, actually let's get into some size comparisons first. Here is the Benchmade Griptilian, Spyderco Para 3, Spyderco Para 2. You can see it's smaller than the Para 3 and the Para 2. Here's the Benchmade Bugout, which is an interesting size comparison. Not quite the same, but close. And the Spyderco Tenacious, something in the same price range. How about this VV Backlash? And it's a VV Shredder. And it's a VV McKenna. Okay, I think that's pretty good for the size comparisons. All right, so let's talk about the good of this knife. So the good right away is the blade. The blade is actually a pretty good performer. It's not extremely slicey, but it's slicey enough. The swedge here is attractive. The blade shape overall is attractive. The fact that you've got a nice flat grind here, that's a nice high flat grind, I think is pretty attractive. The SOG is not overly done. It is, very noticeable, but it's not overly done. And the blade is Cryo D2. So D2, as you guys know, is becoming the budget world darling of steels, because it's just a good all-around steel that has become pretty cheap to manufacture and pretty widely available. The cryo part of it is a chemical process, and this is based on what I've read online. I'm not an expert in heat treating or cryo treating blades. From what I understand, it takes the normal properties of D2 and you're exposing it to extremely cold temperatures, very quickly, freezing temperature, very, very much below freezing temperatures, and that causes a chemical reaction to take place in the blade that causes it to increase edge holding at the expense of toughness. So increase edge holding, decrease toughness a little bit. That's my understanding. If any of you guys know any better regarding cryo treating, please drop a line in the comments, let me know. But that's another thing that's good on this as well. The size of this is pretty good, I think. It compares favorably to the Bugout, and the weight of it is not terrible compared to the Bugout either. The Bugout is very clearly much lighter. I mean, it's very clearly much lighter, but it's also, 2.5 times the price of this. And so, having this be around the same size as the Bugout, do the same things the Bugout does, and just be a little heavier, I think is pretty good. And so that's something that I think is pretty nice as well. This does have a deep carry pocket clip, which I think is a good thing. It's fairly, it's very deep carry. So as you can see, it goes past the scale, which means that this is not, you're not going to see the knife at all in the pocket. And so that's also a plus as well, if you guys are into deep carry. Now, let's get into some of the negatives, because there are actually, sadly, several negatives. So first of all, the milling in here. So if you can see in here, they did a pretty good job milling most of this out. However, you can see pretty much this entire area underneath, pretty much this entire area except for the axis bar, going all the way to about here, right? So this entire area is not milled out. I don't really know why. They really had space to mill more of this out, and they really should have, because it would have saved significant amounts of weight, but they didn't. Don't really know why, because these are stainless steel liners. Another thing that I don't like here is the clip. The clip is terrible, and there's an obvious reason why it's terrible. The obvious reason is this SOG cutout. I mean, if you're doing a deep carry clip, why are you advertising the fact that you're carrying a knife? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, and this is even more egregious advertising than, ZT or Kershaw put on their knives, because you're literally laser cutting it into the knife. I assume it's laser cutting that they used, but it's cut out in the knife. There's no way to get around seeing that. So definitely a negative there. But the real reason I hate the clip is because it is hard to use as a clip. The tension on it is pretty tight, and even if I wanted to loosen up the tension, this, if you can hear it, is pretty, it's pretty aggressive G10, and there is no smoothing out for the pocket clip here at all. No smoothing out at all. So that is a huge drawback, and because when you pull this out, it is uncomfortable to pull it out this way. You can't really get under the clip and pull it out. What you have to do is you have to grab it. And when you grab it, you're putting pressure on the clip exactly where it's meeting here. And the G10 is just gripping onto your pants. It doesn't want to come out. And if you can't get your knife out of your pocket, you can't deploy it. So huge, huge design flaw. Really big problem with this knife is that issue. Can it be fixed? I mean, I suppose you could sand down underneath the clip a little bit, open it up, remove the clip, sand it down. I suppose you could do that, but I don't know if that'll work. I don't know if this clip is ambidextrous. You can see it appears that it probably is, because there's a cutout on both sides of that, where it folds over here. There's another cutout on the other side where it would go if it needed to go on this side. So I assume that it is. Which would make this a fully ambidextrous knife, which actually is a good thing. But even though it's an ambidextrous, potentially ambidextrous knife, the way they've done the axis bar here kind of sucks. So if you see here, there's a little bit of a protrusion where the thumb studs are to deploy the regular Benchmade axis lock. There's a pretty big protrusion here for these, and these are bulky. They're not really fun to fun to actuate. Just a little bit of a disappointment. They're also very stiff, much stiffer than regular Benchmade lock or a Hogue Deca access bar. Excuse me, guys. The flipper tab on here, it works reliably every single time. I'm not really worried about the flipper at all, but it is a little awkward to go back from the flipper to the access bar to close it. Flipper to access bar. You do get used to it after a while, but the flipper tab and the detent are actually pretty good on this, I have to say. There's your centering, pretty good on center. Another thing that I don't like about this knife is the thumb stud. The thumb studs, there's two reasons I don't like the thumb studs. One is they're black thumb studs. I don't like the black thumb studs on the blade. It looks kind of cheap. Not exactly sure why. I think probably because they look plastic. Let's put it that way. They look plastic. I'm not sure if they're plastic. I don't think they are. They might be. I don't know. They might be. I feel them, but they could be plastic. Don't like the thumb studs at all. Excuse me, guys. I'm taking a drink. I've been doing a bunch of these in a row. Okay, too much talking. So, I don't like the thumb studs for that reason. Also, the thumb studs are not comfortable to deploy like that. So, those of you who are used to deploying back and forth, the thumb studs on a 940, for example, or the thumb studs on a Benchmade Bugout, those are placed really well for deploying, and you don't have to, when you push up on them, you don't really find much of an issue. It's really easy to deploy. This one, if you push up, you're pushing it basically into here, and it doesn't feel good pushing up. You have to push it out. And if you push it out, it's fine, but it's not what I normally, how I normally open my Benchmade knives. This takes some getting used to, and it just doesn't, it'll eat your thumb up a little bit if you do it over and over and over again. And so that's not pleasant. That's pretty much the bad. I don't think I have anything else bad to say on this. I mean, the screws are T6, I believe, and the pivot is T8. And I don't love T6, but I can't fault them too much on a $50 knife. The other thing I was going to let you guys know is that the price on this is actually pretty good. It's $55, but there are better knives out there, I think, for the money. One of those is the Civivi Backlash. You can get what I believe to be the very best version of the Civivi Backlash, which is this black wash coating in the carbon fiber. I know there is a Damascus version, but I like this version better. But this is $51. This is like $55. So this is actually cheaper, and I think it's a better overall knife. And you have things like the Civivi Dogma new knife that also I think outperforms it at roughly the same price, actually a little bit cheaper. So those are my 2 cents on this thing. I do like the new SOG Terminus XR overall. As far as would I recommend it, I would have to say I wouldn't recommend it, but I wouldn't fault you for buying it if you like it. And the reason I wouldn't recommend it mostly is the pocket clip is just so bad, and because it has this pocket clip that comes out here, you're not able to replace it with a different pocket clip. Like if you have a Benchmade, Benchmades use, and Spyderco's, the screws on here are like standard shape screws. The pattern, I should say, is a standard shape pattern. So, for example, here, you can see the three hole pattern here. It's a pretty standard shape pattern on the paramilitary too. And so that's pretty easy to replace the pocket clip on with an aftermarket pocket clip if you want to. This one is not so easy to replace replace this with an aftermarket clip. And I just don't love that. Also, it's a little small for me anyway, but this is going to be right in the wheelhouse for a lot of you guys who like medium-sized knives. Thanks again for watching, guys. Go ahead and drop a like, or drop a comment and a like if you enjoyed the video. Go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get all my content. Thanks so much.